Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name's Lauren and this week I'm going to be creating a cropped square neck top, but this time it's going to have ruffled sleeves and also a drawstring at the front to sort of ruffle it up at the front. So let's get to it. I actually ended up changing my shirt as it wasn't very summery and I kind of liked the cropped look with a knot in the front for this particular shirt. So I changed to a white shirt. The only difference is that it's got cropped sleeves, but that doesn't matter since we'll be shortening them anyway. I started by working out how low I wanted my square neck and then cut down the seam of the sleeves, but making sure to leave a few centimetres seam allowance as I'll be folding it over to create a tube to put elastic in a bit. I then joined up the two cuts by cutting straight along the front and straight along the back to remove the collar cuff middle section of the shirt. I folded over the edge that I'd left for seam allowance on the sleeve section and then pinned it in place and sewed close to the edge, making sure to leave a little gap so I was able to feed my elastic through. Also making sure to leave the ends open while sewing, so I was still able to feed the elastic through. Initially I started by using the normal safety pin method of attaching the safety pin to the end of the elastic and then threading it through, but then I realised I could use my loop turner, so I threaded my loop turner through the little tube around the sleeve, attached the elastic to the end, pinned the elastic to the other end of the elastic to the shirt and just pulled it all the way through, and then I was done. After sewing and securing the elastic in place, I cut away the buttons and the buttonhole strips that were on the front of the shirt. I kind of wish I hadn't done this and worked something else out to keep them in place. I laid the shirt down so the two side seams touched and then pinned down those two front sections that we just cut. Before going any further, I decided to crop the shirt while it was all laying flat. So since I had a bit of a split in my shirt, I just cut it to that point on the front and then used the front as a template to cut the back. Before sewing any more of my shirt, I tried it on and pinned the front and the back pieces in the right place. I actually ended up having my shirt back to front, so the part where the buttons were became the back, and then what was the back now became the front. Once I was happy with where they were pinned, I just sewed straight down the edges along both pins. This next little sewing hack is inspired from a recent With Wendy video, so I'll make sure to link that down in the description box below. But with the tube that had just been created along the inside of the new front piece of the shirt, that will now become the casing for our drawstring. So I flattened down the tube evenly on both sides and then sewed along both of the edges of that tubing, which then created two channels up either side of the middle seam. So I was able to hem the bottom section of the shirt. I added in two eyelets, one at the bottom of each of the tubes that we'd just created. I hadn't really worked with eyelets before, so I struggled a little to start with, but we got there in the end. At this point I hemmed all the way along the bottom of the shirt, but I made sure not to sew over the channels, as then this would close them off from the eyelets and I wouldn't be able to access them. So I sewed from one way all the way around, just not crossing over the middle section. In order to create the drawstrings, I used the scrap fabric from the bottom section of the shirt that we cut off earlier, and then cut each piece in half into thinner strips. Decided how many of these strips I wanted to use depending on how long I wanted my drawstring, and then sewed them together along the edges to make one super long strip. I folded the super long strip lengthways and then sewed along the edge with right sides together. Then I was able to use my loop turner to turn the whole thing inside out, so I had a nice clean finished drawstring. Using the same method that I did with the elastic on the sleeves, I fed my loop turner into one of the tubes through the eyelet and then pulled the drawstring through and did the same on the other side. So I had two drawstrings coming out of each eyelet hole. Initially I wanted to gather my shirt at the bottom, so I did feed elastic round at one point, but I decided that I actually didn't like the look. So I ended up taking the elastic out. The last thing I had to do was hem the neckline and then also crop the sleeves, and I added elastic in the cropped sleeves as well, just to give them that poofy look. And after that I think I was done. Overall I'm really pleased with the finished look. I'd like to create another one without the drawstring and just have a straight neckline, as I quite like the straight neckline on the back of the top. Thank you for watching. Please check out my Instagram. It's Horrell Sewing. If you enjoyed this video, please like. Also make sure to subscribe if you want to see more, and use the icon on the screen at the end to head over to my channel to check out some other videos. See you next week. Bye!